This past Sunday, the Eagles beat the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl, and while everybody is talking about the defensive unit that was absolutely stupendous against the Chiefs, there is a hidden storyline that most people are not talking about, but should absolutely give Lions fans a hell of a lot of hope. We're going to talk about it, so stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions friends, fans, and family members. Welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike. And as always, we're diving on in. Folks, I can tell you this right now, that with the Super Bowl and, the fact that it just finished and the Eagles absolutely demolished, just destroyed the Chiefs, obviously everybody is paying attention to the fact that the Chiefs' offense was completely, just dominated by the, Eagles defense. And everybody's now talking about, at least if you're in the Lions circles, about how, Brad Holmes has got to go out and he has to make these moves so that way the defense can get better. That way we have a pass rush. That way we can do the things that we saw the Eagles do. And I've already talked about that. And to be entirely fair, to a certain extent, I both agree in the sense of, yes, we need to make moves like that, but I don't agree on the methodology of how those moves are going to be made. Again, there's a lot of Lions fans that are absolutely adamant. They are ridiculously, for lack of a better word, they are unmoving in the fact that the Lions have to make a trade for a guy like a Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, Trey Hendrickson, whatever the case might be. They just will not let that thought process go. And again, I'm not saying that if it were to happen, I would be against it, but I just don't see that happening. But that's besides the point. That's what a lot of people are going to be talking about, because that's where most people want to focus on what to take away from that Super Bowl victory that the Eagles just had over the Chiefs. Now, that's one aspect of that game. But there's an entirely other aspect that's kind of been, for lack of a better word, squirreled away, kind of been hidden out of the, public limelight because everybody's more focused on the defense. And I'm not saying they shouldn't be, but when you're talking about a game, you're talking about a team sport like football, especially in the Super Bowl, it takes more than one unit to win the Super Bowl. Yes, Eagles' defense was absolutely stupendous, but we have to also talk about the offense that the Eagles had. Now, why am I talking about the Eagles' offense here? Well, the reason why I'm talking about it is not because, I'm all this whatever on the Eagles now. I'm not. Rather, I'm talking about it because of how it correlates to our offense. And what specifically about the Lions offense am I trying to make a correlation with the Eagles offense? It has to do with a specific situation. And it has to do with the quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts and Jared Goff. Now, under any normal circumstance, these two guys do not mix and match in any sort of conversation because, well, let's just call it for what it is. Jared Goff is a pocket passer. He's less mobile. He's not considered a guy that is going to extend the pocket and extend plays typically often. However, though, he knows how to make plays. He knows how to do his job extremely well. Hence the reason why he's considered one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. Okay. Jalen Hurts, on the other hand, is considered a guy that's more mobile. He has the ability to, extend plays, but he's not exactly viewed as a top echelon quarterback because he's never been a guy that's put up top echelon numbers. He's a guy that's considered suitable for the type of system that the Eagles run, which is an offense that is primarily predicated on running the ball. And when I mean primarily, that's what they do almost more often than passing the ball, which is kind of a backwards thought process and philosophy in today's NFL, because more teams are interested in throwing the ball than running the ball. Now, why am I bringing all this up? The reason I'm bringing this up, and the reason why I have my episode the way it is because when you think about Jared Goff, you obviously have people that are fans of him, especially a lot here in Detroit, that look at him as, hey, you know what? This guy came in. He's been a great boon for us as a team. He's absolutely helped us out, blah, 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 blah. He's going to become one of the local heroes in Detroit Lions legend and lore. But there's always, as much as I hate to say it, there's always been those types of guys or gals or whatever that they look at Jared Goff and they see him as nothing more than a placeholder, a footnote in Lions history. Why? Because they never have or never will ever acknowledge him as possibly being able to win a Super Bowl for the Lions. And usually it comes back to one simple fact. And what's that fact? The fact is because that Jared Goff lost a Super Bowl early on in his career. And everybody thinks that that Super Bowl loss was on Jared Goff, and that is his most damning piece of evidence as to why somehow, some way he can never win. Well, I got news for you. If we just take evidence from what happened in the Super Bowl where the Eagles trounced the Chiefs, that whole thought process can get absolutely tossed out the freaking back door, because Jalen Hurts and the Eagles completely just bucked that trend. And I've got some news for you, Lions fans. The Lions are a lot closer than you think to winning a Super Bowl. Now, I know some Lions fans, well, we think we're pretty close. Let me tell you, I think we're more than just pretty close. I think we're right there. Let me explain something to you here as I kind of flip through my notes here really quickly. If we understand the Lions team as it is right now, 2024, as far as the season just being over, I know it's 2025 in the actual calendar year, but let's understand something. The Lions as a roster have all of the intangible pieces you need to win a Super Bowl. But the problem is that most people, when they take a look at the Lions roster, they usually are going to point out one of two reasons as to why they think they can't. The first reason is because of lack of pass rush. That's typically where a lot of Lions fans and a lot of other fans are at with the Lions. They need to get a much heavier, much more efficient pass rush and not solely rely on Hutch. Okay, we've talked about that. But as I'm demonstrating in this episode, the other area where a lot of people like to point as to why the Lions, in their opinion, can't win a Super Bowl is because of the fact of Jared Goff. And again, it comes down to two main reasons with Goff. One, lost a Super Bowl early in his career, but they also want to point out highly that Goff cannot win by himself and that he has to have a strong supporting cast. These are the two main reasons that every time I have had some sort of a Goff detractor come on my, channel, leave a comment or, been on live streams, this is typically one of the two main reasons I hear as to why people think Goff and the Lions will never win a Super Bowl. But if you go to the game against the, Eagles and Chiefs in the Super Bowl this year, the Eagles proved that not only can Goff win a Super Bowl here in Detroit, but that he is in a situation to where he can win multiple Super Bowls. And I'll prove it to you right now. Because let's understand something here. Jalen Hurts is the first quarterback since John Elway that's been able to win a Super Bowl after losing their first Super Bowl in their career. Because the last quarterback that did that prior to Jalen Hurts this year was John Elway. Because John Elway lost his first 3 Super Bowls before he won his 4th one. Jalen Hurts is now the first one to do it since then. So that's what I call bucking a trend right there. But why do I think Goff has the ability to do it? Well, first and foremost, let me point something out here. I know some I know Eagles fans, if they find their way to this episode, they're going to call me a homer for this, and I know that there are going to be others that are going to say my analysis about the two is biased when I bring this up, but I'm just going to point it out for what it is. Jared Goff is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts is. Now, let me explain why I say that. I am not saying it from a physical talent perspective. Yes, Jalen Hurts is much more physically talented. He is much more physically gifted than Jared Goff is. Jalen Hurts has the ability to scramble. He has the ability to run. He has the ability to do this, that, and the other thing. That's all fine, great, grand, and glorious. I don't give a damn. Here's the reason why I don't give a damn. It comes down to a very simple concept. All quarterbacks are passers, but not all quarterbacks are runners. And let's understand it even to a further level of that concept. All quarterbacks, even the mobile ones, they win more so by their arm than they do with their legs. So let's examine this. Because even if you take a look at what Jalen Hurts did in that Super Bowl against the Chiefs, yes, he was successful on the ground as well, but how he beat the Chiefs, at least on the offensive side of the ball, counter of his defense smothering the Chiefs' offense, was more so through the air rather than on the ground. So again, it proves that quarterbacks, even if they're mobile ones, and even if they can run, they have to be able to do more damage through the air than on the ground. So that's when you start getting into this whole tit-for-tat, nitpickiness about, oh, well, you have to have a scrambling quarterback. No, you don't have to have a scrambling quarterback. You don't even have to have a mobile one. Is it nice to have it? Yes, it is, but it is not a necessary thing. What you definitely, absolutely must have is a quarterback that can throw the ball and throw the ball well. Now, when you take a look at it from that perspective, Goff is definitely a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. Let's just take a look at the data. When you take a look at Goff since 2021, when he got here to Detroit, versus Jalen Hurts, which, funny enough, the same year that Goff got to Detroit in 2021 was the very first year that Jalen Hurts was the full-time starter for the Eagles. Take a look at these two guys' data. When you take a look at Goff has completed almost 68% of his passes, which is ranked fourth most in the NFL for this time frame we're talking about. He's almost completed 17,000 passing yards, second most, only behind Mahomes. He's got a 7.6 average per throw, tied for fourth, 115 passing touchdowns, ranked fourth, 39 interceptions with a 100.2 passer rating. Again, ranked fourth. So what you can clearly see there is that Goff, since joining the Detroit Lions, is a top 5 quarterback. Statistically, he's a top 5 quarterback. You can say whatever the, freaking hell else you want about him, but statistically, you cannot argue with the damn numbers. Okay, so that's Goff. What about Jalen Hurts? Here's what Jalen Hurts has done since becoming the full-time starter for the Eagles in 2021. He has completed a smidge over 65% of his passes. That's tied for 16th in that time frame. He's completed a little over 13,500 passing yards. That's ranked 13th in that time frame. He's got 7.6 in average per throw. That's exactly the same as Goff, hence the reason why it's tied for fourth. He has 79 passing touchdowns, which ranks 15th to 35 interceptions, and he has a 94.8 passer rating, which is tied for 16th. Okay, there is something you ought to take very, very clearly from those numbers. Number one, not only is Jared Goff a top 5 statistical quarterback, but at the same time, Jalen Hurts is, if you take a look at the statistics anyway, is just above average. Now, why do I bring that up? I bring it up for this very reason. The fact that Jalen Hurts won the Super Bowl tells me you don't need a top 5, top 10 quarterback in order to win. Which, oh my Lord, we've heard this conversation before many times. Think about all the teams that have had one-off Super Bowl wins or whatever the case might be. It's usually because they don't have a long-term answer at quarterback, or if they do, the guy's just not a top 10, top 5 quarterback. He's decent, he's good, but he's not great. Hell, think about the time that the Eagles won their last Super Bowl. Who was it with? It was with Nick Foles, of all guys. Think about the guy before that primarily, won one Super Bowl and faded into oblivion. Brad Johnson. The guy before that, Trent Dilfer. You don't need a top 10, top 5 quarterback so long as the rest of the team is really damn good. But I will say this. It sure as hell is a nice thing to have if you have one, which is what the Lions have in Goff. Now, why do I bring all this up? Well, the reason I bring it up is because I know some people are going to say that I'm being a little bit biased here. But again, the stats, the data, the numbers, they just don't lie. Yes, you can say, well, I don't give a damn about the stats. I only give a damn about who's winning. Okay, I can tell you this right now. Even that does not go very well for Hurts. And I'll explain to you here in a moment. Because when I say that Goff is better than Hurts, I include the fact that when Goff got here to Detroit in 2021, Goff has played better over the entire course of time being here, despite the fact that when he got here, along with Campbell, Holmes, all these other guys and gals that had to start putting into work, like, Sheila, Mike Disner, Chris Spielman, and all these other fools, we had to start a complete culture rebuild and a complete roster rebuild. That all started from 2021 onward. Think about Jalen Hurts. There was no such thing as that for him because, that's right, like I said, the Eagles had just won a Super Bowl in 2017. And think about it this way, folks. When's the last time the Eagles had back-to-back losing seasons? That's right, 2015 and 16. So think about that. The entire time that Jalen Hurts has been with the Eagles, from the moment he's been drafted in 2020 till now, he's never experienced a losing season. So that's a completely different dynamic than what Goff had to deal with. And on top of that, Jalen Hurts made a Super Bowl in 2022, albeit he lost that one. But I also want to say this. I also include the fact that the Eagles, if you take a look at the difference between how the Eagles use their quarterback, Jalen Hurts, and how the Lions use ours and Jared Goff, notice the difference. The Eagles have never fully relied on Jalen Hurts to be the main reason as to why they win. And there's a reason for that. Jalen Hurts is a guy that can win for you if necessary. But when you take a look at how the Eagles have ran their system, they've always been more about running the ball and using their quarterback as a facilitator within that run scheme. Whether it's with RPOs, whether it's with, with other types of ways to make sure that the run game is the primary component for their offense. So, one, they've never relied on Jalen Hurts because, well, frankly, their offense doesn't require them to. But also, number two, Jalen Hurts has never once shown that he can be a guy you can consistently rely on to have big game after big game if necessary. That's what, in my opinion, is a big difference between Goff and, Jalen Hurts, if you want to call them system quarterbacks, and use that as a negative connotation. Personally, all quarterbacks are system quarterbacks. But when we're talking about Jalen Hurts is much more reliant of a quarterback in terms of system than other quarterbacks. Again, he is reliant on a running game that absolutely must work. He has to have a strong running game or things start falling apart. Now, some people are going to say, well, David, that's a little bit, a bit of a hypocritical statement from you because Goff is much the same way. Maybe in that sense he is, but there is one way where Goff is not the same as Jalen Hurts, and I'll prove it to you right now. While Goff also needs a strong running game just like Jalen Hurts does, what Goff does not need that Jalen Hurts does need is a strong defense. And I'll prove it to you. Again, go back to 2021 here, folks. Just going to put this out there for you. Let me just say this. How have the Lions' defenses been since we've been, with Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, Glenn, who just got hired by the Jets, and Goff and all that nonsense been here? Oh, that's right. They've been downright piss-poor defenses the majority of the time. In fact, let me put this out there for you. 2021, the Lions had the 31st ranked defense in points given up. 2022, it was tied 28th. In 2023, it was ranked 23rd. This year, the 2024 season, was the first time that Goff has been here that he's had a quote-unquote top 10 defense. The only problem is that even though he had a top 10 defense in terms of points given up, that defense was so ravaged with injury, it might as well have been a damn MASH unit. But think about it. Goff in the last 2 years when he's had bad defenses has still had winning records. Okay, that's rather impressive in my mind. Well, what about Jalen Hurts? 2021, his defense was ranked 18th, so just slightly below average. But then 2022, when they go to the Super Bowl and lose, it was ranked 8th. 2023, it was ranked 30th. Still had a winning record, so I'll give Jalen Hurts his kudos there. But then this season that they just had where they won the Super Bowl, it was ranked 2nd. So wait a minute here. Jalen Hurts over the past 4 years has had 2 top 10 defenses and 1 sub-average defense and 1 really bad defense. Whereas Goff has had 2 really bad defenses, a really sub-average defense, and 1 really good defense. But yet, wait a minute here. How many wins do these 2 quarterbacks have between the 2 of them over these 4 years? Oh, that's right. Jared Goff has 39 wins, which is 5th most since 2021. With, again, very bad defenses 3 out of the 4 years he's been the starter. Whereas Jalen Hurts, who's had 2 top 10 defenses in that same time frame, has only 6 more wins than Goff. He has 45 wins to Goff's 39. Granted, that 45 wins is ranked 3rd most out of all that time frame. But my whole point is this. Goff literally got the Lions with a 23rd ranked defense all the way to the conference championship game. That ought to tell you something. When Goff even has a bad defense, he can still get the job done for the most part. And not for the fact that the Lions defense literally fell apart in terms of health, who knows what kind of a conversation we could be having right now. But notice how with Jalen Hurts, if the defense starts floundering, things start falling apart for him. That's my point. Jalen Hurts has to have not only a strong defense in order to win, but he also has to have a strong running game. Goff does not have to have a strong defense in order to win. He can win without it. It's just a hell of a lot harder. So, what I'm trying to get at here is this entire point. The point of the matter is that Goff has the ability to win Super Bowls for the Lions because if Jalen Hurts can do it after losing his first one, then Goff most certainly can do it. And Goff is in a much better position overall, not only in terms of offensive talent, but also in terms of the organizational cohesion and also in terms of the defensive talent that's getting ready to fully blossom this upcoming year. Guys like Brian Branch, guys like, Jack Campbell. All these guys are going to really start hitting their prime here. And on top of that, you got Aiden Hutchinson coming back. You got Terry and Arnold. You got Kirby. You got this. You got that. That's my whole point. Do not think for a minute that just because Goff didn't win a Super Bowl back in way ever, time ago, that somehow that is just going to be his entire story. If Jalen Hurts can do it, then I can tell you this, by God, sure as hell Jared Goff can do it. Goff is in a much better position, and Goff is a much better quarterback, not only in terms of offensive talent that he has available to him, in terms of being a quarterback as far as a thrower is concerned, but here's the other thing. Goff is also smarter than Jalen Hurts when it comes to being a quarterback. Think about it this way, folks. When you take a look at Goff, Goff's not the most fleet of foot. Goff is not the most, agile. So how does he help himself win? Because obviously, like I said, in the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts had 70-plus yards rushing. He also had a touchdown. So people are going to say, well, that's another reason why Goff can't win, because he can't do what Jalen Hurts can do. Wrong. Goff is a smarter passer, which allows him to check in and out of place to make sure that he doesn't put the offense in a bad position more times than not. And if you think about it here, because he has a lesser athletic ability, he has to use his brain a lot more. So guys like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady have shown this in the past. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but both of those guys together won how many damn Super Bowls? Oh, that's right, 9. And then when you think about Goff being smarter in terms of how to handle a defense and handle an offense, put it into this perspective, like I said, the offensive talent that Goff has available to him is much deeper and better than what the Eagles currently have. And then, to further expand upon that offensive talent, which, includes Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Monty, take a look at who the Lions have as their running back tandem. Oh, that's right. We have Gibbs and Montgomery. Gibbs and Monty more than make up the difference of what, freaking Jalen Hurts provides versus what, Goff can't provide in terms of an athletic concept. That's why I'm saying, you want to talk about how this, that, or the other thing might disqualify Goff, but the point of the matter is that Jalen Hurts and the Eagles proved that Goff and the Lions, they can win. And not only can they win, but they have more than enough to do so. It's just about, again, one, getting healthy on defense, but also two, again, it wouldn't hurt, as I said in a previous episode, to get more pass rushing talent, especially if it's available through the draft, which I expect the Lions will do. But anyway, as I have pointed out, I have made it abundantly clear. I think the Lions are in a good spot. Goff will get the Lions a Super Bowl win. I don't know when. I would like to think it's going to be in 2025, but I am not, a savant. I am just basing everything off of what evidence is available. So, having said that, I'm going to end this episode and say thank you all for watching another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Also encourage y'all to do one of these three things. Like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you subscribed in the past and you forgot to do so at the time, I want to highly encourage y'all, please make sure you hit that bell notification icon so that way you guys never miss any more content that I push out. Also want to highly encourage y'all, please, to share the content with your Lions friends and family members. Share here on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Share anywhere and everywhere you possibly can. The more we do so, the greater the channel can grow and spread. And with that being said, to everybody, I hope y'all are doing well. I hope y'all got something in your life that makes you happy, makes you smile. And I also hope you all enjoyed the content and you got something out of it. Whether it's the first time watching me or you guys have watched me forever and a day, that's what I truly hope you guys get when you watch my content. God bless, my friends. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.